Pounders, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a recap video of Week 6, the Pounders Hall of Fame lineups that binked the Week 6 lineups. Let's turn that volume down real quick, my bad. Shout out to Dave, binking the Dog Bowl. Also, one of the nicest dudes in the industry, like truly. Giving the shout out to the overlay. He's just a great guy. Super sharp, so you give him draft tools and portfolio analysis, he's going to take advantage of it. I have a feeling that he's going to be banking a second ticket pretty soon. Also, Pounder Nate's is on fire. Also, bestballoverlay.com user, banked the main slate a couple weeks back and then finished top 15 again for like 4K. We'll review that lineup as well. But I also want to dip into a full portfolio review of all like 800 plus teams we drafted all summer long. How are they doing? How are we looking? What's the outlook? Are we happy? Are we going to be victory lapping? Are we going to be crying? It's probably going to be a little bit of both. And I think that's how everyone's portfolio looks. Just with the amount of injuries this early into the season and drafting for depth. Oh my. Remember the saying like, "Ooh, I like my Christian McCaffrey builds with 5 running backs." Like just like shit like that. Man, we'll get into everything as we dive in. But let's take a look first at the Week 6 winners for the Dog Bowl. Something that we were absolutely beating the horn for was Mixon here in the Dog Bowls. Something that we gave insight to the Pounders on 1010 in the Battle Royale secret channel. Something that's available to the Patreon members. So on Thursday, generational wealth opportunity in Dog Bowls. He ends up in 6 of the top 7 teams in Dog Bowls, 2 of the top 3 that punched a ticket. He ends up as actually RB1 in the slate. So we ended up with 11% in the main slate BR anyways. And I wish that was more. It was a lot more than the field average based on how much he was drafted, but you can never have enough of the optimal play, especially when it's a scroll. So really happy with hitting the nose on the head there. D-Rap, I want to say, is this his 3rd ticket? Might be his 3rd, and he almost punched a few more. He leaned into the Mixon lineup as well, but the Mayfield stack with Godwin, Mayfield over Mahomes, like rest of season, like Mayfield over Mahomes, fantasy purposes, rest of season. He's on fire. Finishing as a top QB, top 3 QB, like 3 times this year. It's insane. Mike Evans got a little dinged up early in the first quarter as well after a few catches. Godwin just went nuclear. He went nuclear, and there were signs of this going to happen. Now, did everyone follow them? Different story, but we already saw the Lattimore splits when Mike Evans plays New Orleans, and it's never pretty. So Godwin gets here in a big way, and something that should be noted on this draft especially is leaning into those Q tags, something we talk about on our Monday streams. When the Dog Bowl releases, when the main slate releases, pick 69. Nice. Mixon, pick 69. This was drafted on Monday or Tuesday. D-Rap in the house, bro. Just all over this slate. You love to see it. And we'll dip into the main slate as well. I was surprised Mixon wasn't in the top team. You saw a lot of Derrick Henry, Bijan, and we'll get into that as well. But Diggs, it was a clean lineup. And then Dave, you love to see it. The Drake May stack, but also the bring back with Mixon. So going back to like the DFS days and just focusing a game script and crushing it, like absolutely crushing it. But here, Mixon still pick 46. And on our quick stream, apologies, last week, couldn't do the most content. Whole family was sick. Parents were up from Florida, escaping the storm. All is well. We did say like Mixon in the 4th round was a hack. It was a hack. So Mixon here at 46 is still really, really sick. But The kicker is Godwin at 22 with Derrick Henry. That pairing was basically nutted through the first 2 rounds. Bijan, Godwin also very, very good. That's also a top stack in the first round. We're seeing a very common theme of QBs in the first round, in the second round, not really pushing the needle. It's not really pushing the needle. And I don't know why people continue to keep going back to that well. And I think elite QBs will have their week, but the stats are showing like put off tight end, put off QB. It's very interesting. But yeah, he gets the mini stack here with Henry and Terry McLaurin, which is really sharp. So 2 correlated game scripts there, and then just the naked Godwin going for the optimal wide receiver 1 position. Just so sick. He had a sweat for a second ticket. This is the second time Dave finished in 4th place this year. Another beautiful one. This is Bijan, Joe Mixon 39, the Godwin stack, and then Leggett. I believe he had Leggett and Laporta. Yeah, he had Leggett and Laporta still live and he was facing basically Bijan and Najee. So what a sweat. Also, shout out to John, Sacrilegious, both sharps in the space. But I was happy to which lineup did we put together? The last minute we did this one. Henry and Mixon. We went with Downtown Flacco and Josh Downs, Devonta Smith, and Bowers. This is a solid lineup, and I'm happy with about 25% Mixon in the dog bowl. We don't do enough volume to really get too down. Fullback dive, we had a nice cash. 3rd and long, again, you replace Hubbard here with Mixon, and we're in the top 5. It's just, especially these contests, you can sacrifice a little bit of projection for a player that's not getting drafted. Like Chuba Hubbard got drafted 98% of the time, probably in the 3rd and long, especially in these contests, the smaller entrant contests. Less people are scrolling than the main slate, I'm saying, because you only have 3. So people are a little more tied to ADP. That's where you could actually get your biggest advantage. So I should have followed my own rule here. I was on Mixon. One of these teams, at least, should have had Mixon. Fullback dive, I didn't get to do enough of the fullback dive. It's a 5-entry max. It just filled at a weird time overnight. Our top lineup ends up in 27th, and we sacrificed too many points at tight end, it looks like. Here's the Mixon team. Mixon, Pollard, and then Dak just falling off a cliff. Interesting. Now onto the main slate. And where's Rohan? Shout out to another pounder, Rohan. He was at a comedy show. He ends up binking a contest. Let me find that lineup. Which, we don't even know which one it is. 2K to first. I wonder which contest that was. Wouldn't be the 3rd and long, would it? No. 3rd and long's 2K, though. Lava Lord. Shout out to another NJ Fresh getting there. Pounder. Really sick. Henry Bijan. So this one you couldn't always get. It wasn't always available, but there were enough teams that it wasn't going to be canceled. Trey McBride. And I thought another thing was interesting, not seeing a lot of I was gonna say Caleb stacks, but was he even on the slate? Just absolutely brain farting on the. Was Chicago on the slate? Who's the morning game? But the main slate here, this ends up as our best lineup, and if you just make this change from Barkley to Henry, who went right next to each other, we're cashing a couple grand, which is annoying. It wouldn't have mattered all that much because Reed, ever since he left the game, just really didn't do much when he returned. But the scroll Mixon, so interesting. And I was very surprised not to see Mixon in the top 3, in the top 4, like crazy. Yeah, Chicago is London. Thank you. I don't know why I brain fart on that, but like, yeah, Komet. That just you would have obviously seen Komet in the top lineups. Um, yeah, another sharp here, but shout out to Nate's Pounder tied for 13th. Took down the main slate a couple weeks ago. Another Baker stack. AJ Brown was one of the only receivers you really wanted in that first round. He might have been the only receiver you did want in that first round. Gets out of there with 20.6. It didn't kill you. Bijan, David Montgomery, and admittedly, personally, I was not stacking enough Bakey Bake. I was worried about Mike Evans getting shut down and it just kind of hampering his upside. Couldn't have been more wrong. But was excited on 27% Bowers, 26% AJ Brown. This Chuba, 25%. I don't mind it, but I wish we did go a little heavier with Mixon. And again, Mixon was probably drafted, 10% of the time? Maybe less. So this 13.7% plays a lot more than the field average. Flowers getting there. Kraft. Again, I'm going to be pretty balanced at tight end, but we were the heaviest on Bowers this week. McBride ends up being the optimal by a few points. That's fine. Pretty happy with the exposures. And again, I only do this is 73 total drafts. We took a small L, but you're going to when you're chasing a dog bowl ticket, like without a doubt. Unless you're finishing in the top 3, your EV is going to suffer. But we're going to continue to keep trying at the dog bowl. And now, for the moment you've probably been waiting for, let's get into the season-long exposures, advance rates, everything. And again, let's actually start with the exposures. We'll just do a quick overview of how they looked. We'll go into the big board first. Currently 40 out of the 150, so right above advance rates. 1 out of the 3 biggest boards, but I think we're at least close enough. Down to 80 there. I think we have someone to play, I hope. Lost Stevenson this week. Garrett Wilson's still got to play. That's good for us. And it was a Waddle bye week. And Mike Williams is still playing. Okay. And a little TG Hawk. Interesting. I'm good with the 1 out of 3. It is technically a 1 out of 3 contest because the top 4 advance. Let's dip into these exposures real quick. Went really heavy on T-Law. Again, he started like 125 in this contest. Our next highest is Lamar, then Dak, Purdy. Kyler started way too late, if you guys remember, on Contest Open. Didn't realize it was in the biggest board. Let's go, putt. That's hilarious. Justin Fields, 9%. We actually get lucky on this one. We drafted a lot of him before before the Chicago news. That wasn't looking good. But I'm pretty happy with the QBs here. Running backs, Kendre Miller at 27%. So again, my advance rates are just above average. We have Kendre Miller, who hasn't played a snap yet. Antonio Gibson, based on his ADP, he was fucking cheap. He was going in the last round, if you guys remember the big board. So he was going very, very late. Now, he gets a pretty good landing spot in New England, but Algier at 25%. Ford, I think his run out hasn't been the best just with Deshaun Watson's performance. Now he's come up with some sort of injury just in time for Nick Chubb to return. Not great for Jerome Ford. Aaron Jones eating. Ray Davis was a last round click. We were ahead of that curve. Rashawn Johnson, Jalen Wright was very late in the 180 range. James Conner, Chris Rodriguez. there's a shout. This is before they brought in Eckler, and those shares, I think we all poured one out. If you guys were drafting the big board back in February of this year. B-Rob Tank Bigsby. Hi, how you doing? Chuba at 14%. Chase Brown. the CMC at 11%. You're just like, you love to see it. You're just so lucky. So lucky to get the one spot 11% of the time. Oh man. But yeah, I actually like the running back exposures. I think if a couple things break right for this group especially, I think this group's on the way up. And Rashawn Johnson, you guys know he ended up as my number one exposed player. And I think the thesis hit, right? Like the thesis was never he's going to replace DeAndre Swift. The thesis was always take carries away at the goal line, be on the field for third and long type scenarios, blocking scenarios where we can get dump offs, and be that RB2 behind Swift in case of an injury. That's what you were paying for. That was the upside case. That's what we're seeing. Now, he's not being efficient with his carries. Chicago's O-lines, not the best for the run game, but Swift has found some success in recent weeks, and Rashawn, in order to keep that role, needs to pick it up for sure. Burton, 25%. Roman Wilson, Malik. So basically, my top three owned receivers have not seen the field. Like Malik's runout's been shit. With Tua, him getting injured, Odell starting on the IR. Like Malik looked like he was ready to eat. Establish a role early. Then he gets hurt right before the season starts. Now he's back. Let's see if that can help. Jermaine Burton, healthy scratch. Not a good locker room guy. That's basically. I think his abilities he's more than capable to play in the NFL. I think his personality is getting himself in trouble. Waddle started in pick 45. I still think there's hope for Waddle when Tua comes back. Now, he might be a bad advance rate play, but if we're advancing teams over average already, I'm okay with having a lot of Waddle, and hopefully we're pushing through some of these Waddle shares as a low advance rate piece. Mooney was a last-round pick. We're beating the drum for Darnell Mooney in the big board. You guys who've been with me since then know that. Ricky, pretty shit run out. We'll see if he can make an impact when he gets back, but Juwan Jennings is him. They trust him, and he's performing pretty damn well. So Ricky might be like a next year type guy, and that wouldn't be overly surprising. But again, big board, you don't even know what team they're being drafted to in this case. Drake London started in the 40s. He's starting to look like he's going to outpay pick 12. There's probably some running backs that you could push him to whatever, the mid or back end of the second round, but for receivers, he's getting the targets. And this was kind of the thesis with Kirk Cousins is if he goes back to old Kirk where he's throwing the ball 40, 45 times a game, doesn't matter that he's not a big yards after the catch guy if he's being targeted in the end zone. If he's pulling 10 plus targets a game, it's really good for his outlook. McMillion's on him early for cheap. Godwin, 15.8%. Shout out to Drew. Big Tampa guy. How the hell do I get a spoon and why don't I have one? You have to be on PC, I believe. And you have to join the YouTube memberships for whatever, $4 a month for the emoji and the badge. Wandale looks pretty good. Rome, Garrett Wilson, Calvin Ridley hurts. Like, I would say this is our first, bad pick. Ridley. And the same is true for our post big board drafts as well. Levis just does not look like Levis from last year. Like, where are those deep balls? Where's the deep ball accuracy? It's been gross in Tennessee. Anything outside of Tony Pollard has been really bad. Christian Kirk even took a really big step in the wrong direction. But again, big board, you were getting him around pick 70. He got expensive for BBM, and you'll see that exposure go down as his ADP rose. DK at 14%. We like that. McConks, DJ Moore, Myers, Amari, Rashi, Rip. CeeDee Lamb just not getting it done right now as well. But pretty happy with the wide receivers. Especially, I think there's a lot of room for end of season upside with this crew. A lot of rookies that you're hoping by the end of the season they're establishing some sort of role And maybe they get lucky with injuries, or maybe they're the ones that get injured in my case. Evan Ingram, our tight end 1, followed by Bowers, Komet. Now, I will say this changed my Komet stance heading into post big board drafts. Was when they brought in Keenan, when they drafted a receiver. We did follow the narrative that it was going to get a little muddy there. We should have known he's still going to have his spike weeks. We were still correlating him with Caleb, but I did not have 15% Komet. That's for sure. Kyle Pitts. I don't even, he definitely not worth his ADP. Not worth his ADP, but it could have been worse at tight end because you could have picked someone earlier that was more expensive and is doing worse somehow. It's, yeah, the elite tight end's taking pretty much a big L so far. But there was a Mark Andrews sighting this past week. Jonnu, Fant, Schultz, Njoku, Sanders. And again, these 20-round drafts, you're going to see some stabs here. Trey McBride, you guys know, started in like pick 90. He rose pretty quick, though. So pretty happy about how my portfolio looks for these 200 drafts drafted between February like 15th to the NFL draft, where then we switch over to the big boys, the 500. How are we doing these pugs? Superflex, 1 out of 3. Advancing the golden, 2 out of 11. Just above advance rates. Not trying to be the best at everything. It looks like 1 out of 3. Boner owes me a beer. Shout out to Bry. I guess we have a beer bet on that Superflex team, and he just had a huge week. All right, let's go over to weeks 1 through 14, the summer-long drafts, 507 drafts. Currently 2 out of 3 Dalmatians. This one drafted with Frank. This one drafted with Nick. This one drafted with Davis in 5th place, almost advancing all 3. This team, I think, took a huge L. Yeah, Taylor and Pacheco both being out. Tyreek Hill, oh man, and Rice. This team took some L's, and we're still in it. So if Tyreek Hill can sort of pick it up, we're past his bye week now. Maybe, just maybe, this team can hold off for 4th place or down 7 points. It looks like 3rd place isn't that far behind, but there's definitely a top 7 or in the running. This was a Pounders draft too. Shout out to Shock. Go AZ Cards. Omega in the 2 spot. Check out this one. Lamar, Bake, and Drake. Wow. Nice. Najee, Stevenson, Singletary, Ezekiel, big mistake. Elliott, pick 133, rough. Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson still to play. London, Tank Dell, Chris Godwin, Shaheed, Polk, Quinn Johnson, McMillan. I mean, that's a pretty solid team. Kittle and Henry. Let's see what we got going on with Nick here. Kirk Cousins, Deshaun, and Baker Mayfield. Dude, the Bake. His advance rates must be pretty nice right now. We still got Breece Hall to play. Stevenson, Dave Montgomery, Singletary, Corum. I like the RB core. Adams, Diggs, Amari Cooper, Godwin. Palmer was a terrible draft pick this year. Rondell Moore ends up on the IR. This was drafted very early into the season. This was drafted right when the Dalmatian opened. Pitts and Henry, I'm cool with that combo. But Palmer was probably one of the worst picks this year. One of the worst picks. He may as well be a 0. He probably hurts you more because of he was like a top 100 pick. He's like in that 110 range. And then he rose. He rose even higher. So pretty happy with 2 out of 3 there. So we're at 3 out of 6 for our $100 drafts. Very happy with that. The Bulldog I almost didn't do. This was the $75 single entry contest. And looks like we got a pretty good lead on 3rd place, which is nice. Putting up 158 this week. Baker Mayfield. Who would have thought? Baker's advance rates must be nutty. This team, Najee, B-Rob, Charbonnet, Chuba, Antonio Gibson, and Rashawn Johnson. A.J. Brown, Marv, Diggs, Godwin, Coleman, Downs, DeMarcus Robinson, Tolbert, Mark Andrews, and Njoku. Real fun. All right. let's take a step back and let's just do a quick peek at how these exposures look. Lamar, Josh Allen, Purdy, A-Rich, Dak, Drake May, Lawrence, Will Levis. Very balanced. So the way I draft these tournament teams especially is like my first couple picks are going to basically tell me how my team's going to look at the end of the draft. I'm going to be correlating along the way. I'm going to be focused on week 16, week 17, the weeks that matter in tournament play, which means I'm going to end up with a variety of quarterbacks, a variety of stacks, a variety of teams. Not every team's going to hit when you do it like this. If you're focused on pure points, you don't care about correlating, and maybe you don't care about the EV plus EV for week 16 minis that, whatever. I get it. That's my personal strategy, because when I advance that one team into the BBM finals, 1 out of 8 years on average is what the odds are, without basically with a little bit of edge calculated in. I want that team to, at least have a well correlated matchup, something. Try to make every lineup mean something. Now, I'm probably sacrificing a little bit of advance rates when I'm doing that, but I'm okay with that. For that nut outcome, you're looking for that one team, because one team can literally change your life. So you're going to see that, and you can play cash games. You can play this game completely different. And I do. And you can see when we get into the marathon, I think I'm advancing like 9 out of 19 teams. Marathon, I'm just focused on points. It's top 2 advance. I'm in the top 2 in 9 out of 19 drafts for the marathon. So like there are different styles of drafting. And when you're drafting tournament teams, personally, I sacrifice a little bit of advance rates to hopefully make up for it when I make the playoffs. Week 15, don't really care about. Week 16, week 17. So quarterbacks, still have Josh Allen to play this week, which is nice. How much Rodgers did we end up with this year? Under about just around field average, 8.6 around field average, so just under. And we had a lot of Garrett Wilson too. So it's surprising that I kind of made a solo bet in a way, because I went heavy on Garrett Wilson. So far, that's looking like a pretty good bet. I didn't fall for the Herbert stuff. Kind of faded the Chargers in a way. That was sort of awkward. Faded Stroud, which is looking pretty good right now. Goff, I probably wish I ended up with more. Kyler, Caleb. Now, this is season long, right? 507 drafts. BBM might look even a little more evened out as well. Running backs. Rashawn at 32%. He was our guy this year. I don't know what to say. Stevenson, Singletary, B-Rob, like, please return soon. Like, get well, stretch. Go to Tom Brady's guy, like, get your legs shaken. Like, I don't know. Like, get better. Do it quick. Charbonnet, Gibson, Ty Chandler, Ray Davis, Chase Brown, James Conner. Chase Brown scoring that touchdown that he didn't need to do at the end of the game probably gave us a little boost, which is nice. Derrick Henry at 13.4%. Looking back, I wish it was more, but like being a streamer and like the pressure, right? The pressure of being a wide receiver, bro, kept me away from 15% plus. But he is my highest owned RB that went in the first few rounds. After that, you're seeing a bunch of like 0 RB teams or hero RB, which was one of our favorite. Double anchor was our second most common build. We weren't huge on strict 0 RB this year, but when we did, we attacked this range of B-Rob, Singletary, Stevenson very often. Zeke in there. God damn, we fell for the touchdown roll. We'll see. It's Jerry wants it to hit. Jerry wants it to hit. It's bad. ETN so far, bad run out, bad performances, like fumbling. It's not the best run out for the Jags in general, but ETN Luckily, it looks like this is a lot of lower stake stuff, seeing 621 at 12% and everything around it higher. So that gives me a little bit of a little bit of hope. Bijan at 11% finally had a spike week, and I think it's important. Bijan's spike week came during a week where Chase didn't perform. Jefferson was on bye. So those Bijan shares right now getting a temporary boost potentially. TP, Christian McCaffrey, dude. Like, I don't want to run hot at the one spot. Like, it's just, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Brees Hall, Algier. This one slipped away. As you guys saw, it was around 20-something% in the big board. This one slipped away from us. This should have been higher. Pacheco, RIP. Aaron Jones is fine. But Tank Bigsby at 9.5% again. Corum, I'm fine with those. But we were very heavy on Singletary and B-Rob over Corum, over Trey Benson. We'll see how that looks towards the end of the year. Wide receivers. Wide receiver 1, baby. Rashee Rice. Done for the season. It's okay. Next man up type mentality. Josh Downs, our wide receiver 2, has been crushing since he's returned. It's proving why we sort of faded Pittman and just clicked Downs instead. About 3.9% Pittman. Happy with that. Very happy with that take and how it sort of materialized. We bought the dip when he fell to the 150s with the injury. We all but went all in. He was our wide receiver 2 in ownership. McMillan, Debo, Cooper just needs like a quarterback change. He just needs, the whole team needs a quarterback change. T. Higgs looks fine. I think he's performing better than some people thought he was going to, which kind of, I don't know if it was people worried about Joe Burrow or just strictly didn't believe in T. Higgins' talent, but he's a target earner and he's on a team that, dare I say, doesn't rush the football with the quarterback after a 50-yard touchdown from Joe Burrow. DK Metcalf at 15% is looking hot. Tank Dell, we sort of luck into this right now with the temporary Nico injury. Drake London and Garrett Wilson. Very common for us, pick 11, pick 12, to at least end up with one of those guys. Looks like Garrett Wilson could come around. He's absolutely crushing in targets. Ooh, Daniel Jones or Drake May in week 7. Boys, give us some help for that comment. Who do you guys think? Drake May showed he could rush too. I don't know. Drake May, get hot, stay hot. But yeah, 54 targets. You're pretty happy with Drake London at this point. 4 tutties. Looks like he's going to pay off his ADP. Garrett Wilson, you got at least a little bit of a bright spot last game. Myers, Deontay, Malik, Roman, Calvin Ridley again. This is the RAP pick. Jalen Hyatt, we're mixing him in the 18th round. Doesn't look great. You need an injury to Slayton for him to really do anything. And even then, it's the Hyatt pick, 18th round, may as well be a 0. McConkey, Godwin, Cooks on the IR, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith. So pretty happy with the exposures here. I think we could get maybe a little more production from McMillan returning back from that injury. Malik Washington is someone that I'm hoping towards the end of the season we can see hit. Yeah. May start any QB versus Jacksonville. That's going to be the new rule. And then tight ends. Hunter Henry looking like a really good pick for where he went. I think he is going to have more upside with Drake May, which is a good thing. It's a good thing they made this QB change. If you were a Henry believer, gets a touchdown in the first start, good sign. You're probably pretty happy. Dallas, like, God, go back in time, like, draft a running back, anyone, draft Braylon Allen, draft Audric Estime, draft anyone. They can't establish the pass before they establish the run. They're getting no respect, and they're turning Dallas super one-dimensional into a pass-heavy offense, and they're suffering. You double CD, like, Ferguson's your next best target. You're trying to make Tolbert make tough catches. What were you thinking? Like that's where we're at. Like what did you think was going to happen? Now, I'm still hopeful for this Ferguson exposure. I think it's going to be fine. Sort of ran cold in the end zone so far. Jono needs Tua. Like, but that pick's whatever. Pick like 180 to the last round. Doesn't really matter. Pitts, Freiermuth are fine. Juwan Johnson. We're starting to see his snap count come up. Got injured in the preseason, or got injured in training camp, I believe. Could have been preseason. But anyways, his snaps started around 30%, went to 40, went to 50, went to 70, and now he's a near full-time player, which is good. Bowers, but again, my exposure on tight ends, pretty balanced. We did a lot of 3 tight end builds, which now I'm very happy with. But tight ends you won't really see at the top here. Laporta at 4.5. Mandrews at 4.7. This one's going to hurt. I don't even want to type it in. We made the bet on Rice taking these targets. Kelsey's going not to smash, but he's going to have a high floor for the rest of the season. And I'll admit it, like, God, should we have been baking that in? An injury, potential injury to Rice. Maybe. But I guess our risk reward was kind of blocking our thoughts. But pretty happy with the tight ends. Njoku, 8.5%. So this was our highest elite tight end that we drafted. It was Kincaid, and it's because of our Josh Allen exposure was high. But Bowers at 11.8%. This is looking really good. Really happy with that. All right. Now back to the teams. Now that we have the exposures in mind, where are we? Live 507. The Dalmatian 2 out of 3. The Bulldog 1 of 1 so far with a nice little lead. And the Chow Chow, we have 1, but we have the second one with Steph in the running, which is nice. 2 out of 4 would be fantastic. I'd be very happy with that. Hard to complain about that one. Achane, Pollard, Ford, Dobbins, Tony Gibson, and Tank Bigsby with Hurts and T-Law. Amon-Ra Smith, Terry, Deontay, Brian Thomas, Josh Downs, Wandale, and Tyler Boyd. Like, talk about darts. Everyone chipping in except for Tyler Boyd. No one on Tennessee's chipping in, though, besides Pollard. So, Bowers and Parkinson. You would think Parkinson would have a higher floor with so many pieces being hurt in LA, but it's been tough sledding for Colby and Staffy, but you would think he would at least be like a PPR hack or half PPR hack even. But this one was Steph. Shout out to Nick Bach here at the 3-spot T-baller at 5. Neil here at 9. Ski. Long season. All right. A-Rich and Dak, Jesus. Talk about getting like 5 points this week. Derrick Henry, Singletary, Elliott, Dobbins, Tank Bigsby, and Trey Sermon. Marv, 0 points. Thank you. Oh, we still got Drake London to... No, we don't. Who plays the Jets in Buffalo? God damn it. Greg Dortch was a bad pick this year, guys. I knew it. We fell for... I'm glad we didn't put too much stock into it. This year, especially, we sort of stayed in our own lane with content and really focused the players that we liked and didn't let anything really sway us. Well, this one's in 7th, but we're only down 40 points. Nope, we're down a lot more. 2 advance. 80 points. Hurts and Jones, Mixon, Stevenson, B-Rob, both hurt. A.J. Brown. This team could be on the way up, but you need both of those guys to get back to have a chance. Long season again. Long season. I would pick Freiermuth guy from this list. Do you think I have good RBs? Hall, H. Oh, hell yeah. I'd be looking to package one of those and get an upgrade, to be honest. Yeah, that's a nice group. You could definitely work with that. Or just stay strong for the bye weeks. And that's an option too. Greyhound. We only did one. Was this a single entry though? Yeah, this was a single entry. So we're crushing the single entry stuff, which is nice to see. We really focused on advancing when it came to the single entries. BBM, we're at, was this 23? So just under on advance rates. But again, I don't really mind being right around average with BBM, especially 3 of my top 4 running backs being out this week to injury. I'm actually just happy that we're around average for BBM. B-Rob, Stevenson, like, we need these guys to come back and contribute to these teams because they're on too many of our teams. Rottweiler, right now we're 3 out of 4. Shout out to Tyler in the live stream as well. Drafted 2 of these with him. One with BBG. I want to say I forced him to take Dobbins with one of these. Could be wrong. That might have been his draft. That went on his stream. Love Deshaun Watson Fields. Shout out to, all right, Tyler. Tyler said Fields here. I will give him that. Tyler said to draft Fields. Breece Hall, we still have to play. Aaron Jones, Charbonnet, Lloyd, Ray Davis, and Roshan. Dude, Pickens needs Russ. I still think Pickens could be fine towards end of season if Russ gets in there. But without Russ, it's pretty gross, I will say. Addison Downs. I like this team. I'm glad I wasn't really clicking too much Luke McCaffrey this year. Man, he got a nut run out with Dotson leaving, and it's still really bad. It's still really bad. What did we end up with? Luke. Someone that I didn't really draft in the big board. So I just wasn't overly impressed with the talent from what I saw. Not that I'm a freaking talent evaluator, but about 3.9%. There's a couple cash games in there, but it gives you an idea. But yeah, the way I'm going to draft these teams, especially for BBM, I'm leaning into team comps. I'm leaning into player correlation, team correlation for a little bit extra EV when you do make it to week 16, when you do make it to week 17. I want that team to matter because it's so hard to make it there. When you do, at least have a little plus EV lineup. That's my thought. And then our drafting process, we are a little more balanced. So I expect my advance rates to be a little more around average, except for when I'm really trying to make the push. Higher stakes, I'm really focused on advancing. Same thing with these single entries, really focused on advancing. Pitbull looks fine. 2 out of 10 so far. And again, this is the first portfolio review. We'll be doing probably maybe 2 more. Maybe one around week 10 and then one week 14 right before, right after we know how many teams we're advancing to the finals or the playoffs rather. Shout out to Jay Fresh in the house. Jay Fresh, I saw your little cash this week in Battle Royales. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Pug. A lot of this stuff is smaller. It doesn't show. What's annoying is like the flocks. It doesn't show you when you are winning, which is kind of annoying. I don't know what really, like, why that is for Underdog. But oh, I know what? I know what it is. It's because even if you do advance in these contests, you're not guaranteed money, right? You have to make it to, I believe, the finals in this specific contest, and only the number 1 team advances. So it's 1 out of 12 for these contests. Yeah, we have a lot of second and third place. I believe we have 2 in first place that I saw yesterday. Golden, another single entry. Oh, God, I want to say this is the double elite QB team. The double elite QB. And we make the bet. It's like, okay, if we're going to do this, how can we make a very strong advance rate team? Well, let's lean into some uncertainties, right? Let's get Rashee Rice with pick 94. How do you make a strong team, right? Lean into some uncertainties and be correct, and then just get it pulled from you. So it looked good, but guess what? Like Mahomes was a terrible pick this year, and I mean, he had a shit run out with his receivers getting hurt. So good process, not necessarily. Good process was fading Kelsey, in my opinion. Poodle. Now we did some of these. I believe it was the Poodle. We did a test where we just drafted off ranks, and this was a stream that we did all 20 at once. So really, hashtag trust the ranks. 4 out of 20 sort of expected. It's what, 2 out of 12, so 4 out of 24, so just above advance right there, which is fine. Hashtag trust the ranks. Sometimes you got to do it. I think we did that in another contest as well. But the smaller stake stuff, we're not going to really dip too much into. I'm probably just above advance rates when you add them all together. Some contests were way above, some contests were under. Like Fast Puppy was our thing, I guess. It just depends, like, who you were drafting at that specific time when that time box contest was open can sort of determine your advance rates. If you got good news about a player and you didn't have a lot of him, so maybe you were reaching up a little bit just to grab him, and then they end up not hitting, and you waste a 4th round pick, whatever it is, in a majority of those contests. So you'll see, like, the way you were drafting in certain contests, you might be crushing it in a certain time box contest, or you might be like suffering. Your advance rates might be suffering. So it's interesting to sort of go through and look at that stuff. Corgi? Yeah, I was gonna say single entry Corgi. Like, I'm the single entry champ, man. Like, come on. We gotta see that. But this contest, I believe, even if you advance out of round 1, I don't believe there is a payout. So it doesn't show you as winning money on the outside, because even if you advance out of round 1 in this contest too, the flock, even if you're advancing, you have to get to like the second round or even week 17 before there's a payout. So it's interesting to see. And then the Daxon, this must be run similar too, where it's like you're not getting paid out unless you advance beyond week 15. So I do think, I don't know if there's a way for them to show like projected winnings for advancing to whatever week 15. I don't know how they would. I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard. But the mini schnauz, I believe we also did these as a video where we drafted all 20 at once. Hashtag trust the ranks. So some of those videos, it ended up not really even being minus EV. It was a fun little experiment. And yeah, let's see marathon. So like marathon is a contest where I'm strictly worried about points. Like, all I care about is points. Bry's in the house. Show the super flex. You got to scroll back, buddy. I have the team mark too. I'll give it to you. I'll give you a peek. But you're really just worried about points. You're not worried about week 16 minis and week 17 correlated bringbacks, and just care about points. I had some hot teams. I lost a lot of Rashi Rice, of course. But like, if this was a contest that top 2 out of 12 advance, that's our strength. Our strength comes from cash games. We just apply everything we know about tournament play and we adjust our strategy. But nothing too crazy in terms of scores. But if it was an advanced rate contest, we'd be pretty happy. And that's where it's like, you can just take a step back and next year just focus. I'm not going to over correlate. I'm not going to worry about week 16, week 17. Just try to advance as many teams as possible. And there's been different takes on that as well. Leone putting out some statistics, like what increases your EV the most in BBM is actually the amount of entries you are advancing. That's the biggest a factor in increasing your EV more so than correlating week 16, week 17. But if I'm going to sun run week to week 17 anyways, personally, I want that team to matter. Here's a couple of the cash games. Shout out to Bradley. Going 2 out of 8. Pretty happy with that. Weekly winners, no dice so far. 0 Godwin. So 0 Godwin. Not too hot. Eliminator. We ran hot in Eliminator this week. Advancing every team but 3. So about less than a 10%. Losing less than 10% is really nice. I think I went through these. I went through the teams that are in 6th, 7th, and 8th, and seeing where we could get bumped. I believe there's one spot where we can get bumped where Brees Hall has to score like 18.8 points. It'll probably happen this week. It'll probably happen. And when some of those teams are nice too that I'm losing, it's you hate they're your babies, right? That you're like emotionally attached to these teams. Like I drafted a nice team. Like B-Rob, where were you? Where were you when I need you the most? Or anyone else for that matter. Now, you deserve to lose your team if it scores less than 100 points. I strongly believe that. But just in time for Jalen Brooks, like what could have been? Little Kyler Goff. Couldn't get through we got through the Amon-Ra bye week. Couldn't get through the Waddle bye week. And you see we had a lot of week 5, a lot of week 6. So I'm very, very excited for rest of season. I know we have a lot of week 7 as well. So I'm expecting maybe we just ran hot this week. So pretty excited about the Eliminator. Bestball Res. Pretty happy with this. And it's 2 out of 13, but we have like 46% Chubb, like 58% Jalen Brooks. Like we really focused week 15, 16, 17 in Best Ball Res. We leveraged some of the bets. We hedged some of the bets, I should say, that we made in season long. I couldn't get the volume in because of content, family, but 13 drafts, we definitely had fun with this one. Still making the bet on Marshawn Lloyd, Trey Tucker, 46%. Yeah, so this was a fun one to draft a little bit and make some content for you guys as well. Get you ahead of the curve, the player, the ADP rising ADPs. Jalen Brooks, no, Jonathan, you dude. Jalen Brooks, Dallas wide receiver. Luckily, we didn't fall for that trap. Dallas is in trouble though. Dallas is in trouble. Tolbert is a great like number 4. Number 3's like barely serviceable. It's tough. That team's truly lost. And it's kind of sad to see. But hopefully all you guys are advancing quite a few teams. I know a lot of the Pounders are posting some really strong teams in the Discord. And if you guys want to sweat with us as the season goes on, link to the Discord is in the live chat. Links to the Discord is also in the description of the video. If you guys enjoyed this portfolio review, go down, slap the like on the video, leave a comment if you have time. And don't forget to visit bestballoverlay.com. The biggest edge in best ball. Honestly, I'm so happy with my exposures, even with player injuries. I don't really care about injuries. Can't control that. But because I could monitor my exposures on screen all summer long, I was accountable in front of you guys watching me draft. So you guys saw my exposures. Full transparency channel. That's what I want it to be. And just appreciate you guys rocking with me this whole past summer and into this year with Battle Royales and Dog Bowls. And Dave, one of the sharpest people I know, hopefully it helped him punch this ticket into the Dog Bowl. So super cool. Shout out to Dave again. Shout out to some of the Pounders that crushed week 6 in BRs. And we hope to catch you guys probably tomorrow for a Smash the Slate video, week 7, first look on this slate. So pretty excited. It's going to be another fun slate this week. And we'll catch you guys in the Discord. Have a good night. Pounders.